Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the A-Pod Fun Chats, Fun Topics, Fun People here on MSGNetworks.com and on iTunes every single Wednesday. My name is Arda, Ocal. Thank you very much for subscribing, rating this podcast, leaving a review on iTunes. It helps others find it. It solves the algorithm, which we tried to do by releasing 3 podcasts last week, and I think it did us well, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Last week we had Season 21 of The Bachelor contestant Lacey Mark. She gave us a great behind-the-scenes explanation and detail on what it's like being a contestant for The Bachelor. As well, we had the Maven on, Stan Fischler, who previewed round 2 of the playoffs. We are in full swing right now, and we opened up the mailbag, hashtag #AskTheMaven, and Friday, a conversation I was looking forward to for a very long time. Blake J. Harris, the author of Console Wars. If you're a fan of retro video games, particularly NHL 94, which you guys crowned the greatest retro ice hockey video game of all time in our Ice Madness poll in March, you'll definitely want to listen to this one. He has all the behind-the-scenes information on how the game was created, on retro video games in general, particularly Sega versus Nintendo, and he's writing a book on virtual reality right now. So how will our viewing habits as a sports fan change with VR? So that was last week. This week we have a great panel for you, actually. So as you might know, I've been hosting the festivities at Rangerstown Square, right beside Madison Square Garden. Particularly in the second round during away games, there was a big screen set up so that you can watch the game with your fellow Blueshirts fans, and it makes it feel like a home game atmosphere. And let me tell you, you fans are super passionate, and it is contagious, and I love it. There are no better sports fans than hockey fans. I love hockey fans. I love talking to hockey fans. I love being a hockey fan, and I love interacting with them. So always feel free to come say hello when you are at Rangerstown Square. If you see me, please say hi. I love talking with you guys. It's always a blast. You guys are passionate. You guys are fun. And hey, fun is the name of the game on this podcast as well. So there you go. Speaking of people who came up to me, there was one student, a young man, came to talk to me and asked me an interesting question. He actually asked me, his name is David, and David came up to me and asked me, hey, how did you get this gig? Like, how did you get involved with the Rangers organization? And so I asked him, well, what's your dream job? And he said, well, I want to be involved with social media. So we had a conversation about social media and how do you break into that particular field, and also how do you break in with a hockey team? How does that process work? But what I liked about that was he was fearless. He just came up to me, asked the question. He knew what he wanted. He went for it. The worst that can happen is someone would say no, or I don't know, or maybe even pass you off to somebody else. Whatever it is, I want to give a shout out to David. I believe he's 18 years old, and he just went out on a limb. He didn't even know if I had the answers, but he definitely knew what he wanted, and he had a goal and a dream in mind, and he took this as an opportunity to chase that dream, or to at least try. So to David, tip of the cap, my friend. Good vibes and positive thoughts as your journey begins. Hopefully you end up doing what you want to do and what you love. And hopefully that if that ends up being with the Rangers in a social media capacity, then good on you, man. I really hope it works out. And like I said, good vibes and positive thoughts as you continue to chase the dream. I always have a soft spot for people who chase their dreams in life, because that's exactly what I did. And for those of you, well, here's a cheers of the podcast juice, the coffee, to you. So, as part of the Rangerstown Square festivities, a lot of alumni come through. We've had the likes of Colton Orr, a fan favorite, no doubt, not only in New York, but in Toronto as well. He is frequently there. Brian Mullen, who started with the Rangers organization as a stick boy. He grew up in Hell's Kitchen, 10 blocks away from Madison Square Garden. He went all the way from volunteering with the Rangers to wearing the uniform. And that's a cool story in itself. And I also recently discovered that he and his brother Joe Mullen had an article written about them in Sports Illustrated. Other alumni, including the ones that'll be on this podcast today, we actually recorded this one so that you guys could hear it just in case you were not at Rangerstown Square. And if you're on the fence about coming to Rangerstown Square, hopefully this panel convinces you to come, because not only will you be around fellow Blueshirts fans, but you'll also get to hear great stories like these ones. This is a very practical joke, prank, heavy talk because I guess there was a lot of pranksters in the Rangers in the 70s and 80s. On the panel are Ron Duguay, as you certainly know, being an analyst on MSG Networks with the New York Rangers. He's on the panel. Tom Laidlaw's on the panel. We didn't talk much about him becoming an agent, but I do want to bring him on the A-Pod because I think that's fascinating that he had a playing career and then he moved on to be a player agent. I definitely want to dive deeper into that, but he was there as well, sharing some great stories. And of course, the captain, Ron Greschner, was part of the panel as well. So the three of them and me, we were on stage at Rangerstown Square, and I was just asking them questions. We were breaking down the Rangers, but we were also hearing some hilarious stories from their playing days, and who was a goofball in the locker room, who was the biggest prankster, what were some of the pranks, that kind of fun stuff, who was the funniest guy in the locker room. This is your opportunity to really dive into what a conversation would sound like at a bar with these players. So that's a lot of fun. So enjoy this panel discussion with Ron Duguay, Ron Greschner, Tom Laidlaw, and I on stage at Rangerstown Square here on the A-Pod. All right, so we got some great analysis from our alumni here of the series, but I think you guys want to hear some of their stories, right? I think a lot of the time we want to hear them talk about their stories. You guys want to hear some of their stories? What do you say? Why don't you guys give us some fun stories from the locker room? From your rosters, who's the biggest prankster in the locker room?
It would have been, that'd be easy. That's Nick Fotiu.
Oh, yeah. No
Nick
question.
Fotiu, every single road trip, he was up to something. And if you happened to be his roommate, there was always something that was going to happen either outside your room or somewhere. And for me, the one thing he loved to do is that we get to hotel, I'd be kind of late checking in. This is on the road. He'd check in, he'd get into the room, and I had no idea where he was. He'd be hiding in the closet, right? Open up the closet, and here comes Nick Fotiu. Always wanting to do something that would just scare the heck out of you. Anyways, Nick Fotiu was the funniest guy. He kept the room light. He was obviously our toughest guy on the team, and he had to do the dirty stuff. So I think in his mind, because his job was so hard that he had to keep, in his mind, have fun and keep it light, which I think that was a good way for him to balance out his brain.
Well, I think one year Nicky was, I had a separated shoulder. So Nicky was wearing this shirt looked like an Italian tablecloth at a restaurant. So I
Red,
went and
white checker. That was nice. I
went and set it up in the locker room. I had a couple of chairs, went to the corner store, got a couple of plastic cups and dishes, set everything up. And Nicky was the last guy coming in after practice. And I'm there with a sling on my shoulder and got it all set for lunch for Nicky and another friend of his, whoever he wants to bring. He looks at this thing, doesn't go after anybody else, and chases me down. He pinched the end of my nose so hard that it was red. And he was calling me Ronnie the Red-Nosed Ranger. It was funny. It was funny the first part. The second part wasn't that funny.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was funny.
It was funny.
Good. It was good.
Tommy, why don't you tell them about, you guys know anything about shoe check? If you're having a pregame meal on the road with the team and someone hollers out, shoe check, have you ever heard that term? No, Tommy, tell us about shoe check.
So the hotels we stayed at were always first class, so the linens hanging over the tables and everything. So it was ideal because you couldn't see what was going on underneath the table.
Right. So it'd be a whole table, about 20 guys, a whole table, tablecloth, and you're all sitting there having your meal. And about halfway through, we would hear shoe check.
So somebody, don't know who, would have snuck underneath the table and put sour cream, butter, ketchup, whatever you want, on somebody's shoes. And some guys had nice shoes, some did not, and some people weren't too happy about it. So that was a fun time. One of the best Nick Fotiu stories, or one of the best jokes Nick had, Nick would put baby powder in the hair dryers. So after the games, the guys would get showered, put their suits on, the whole bit, go to dry their hair, turn the hair dryer on. So I thought this joke was fantastic. I wanted to be like Nicky, the practical joker. I thought it was great. So before the game, I thought, okay, I'd be even smarter. I was going to put the baby powder in the hair dryer before the game. Well, we had a coach by the name of Jack Birch, and he would go through this routine where he would work out, shower, put his contacts in, and then he'd go dry his hair. Now, I forgot about Jack. We're about to go on the ice here at the Garden. Big game. I think we're playing the Islanders, whoever it is. It's about 2 minutes before we go on the ice. We've done warm-ups and the whole bit. And All of a sudden, we hear out of the shower or the men's room in the back, Jack yelling, "Laidlaw, I'm gonna kill you!" So he'd use the hair dryer and the baby powder, and he had to take his contacts out and late for the game. So that was my favorite Nick Fotiu story.
Gresh, tell them about what it's like if we were on a road trip and you come back, we had a good night, the next day you're really tired, and you fall asleep on the plane. What could happen to you if you fall asleep on a plane?
Well, I've never done that, but I mean, fall asleep on the plane. But
So just to set the table here, so
Okay,
the
well,
team
we're-
is on a plane.
We're sitting on a plane coming back from L.A. Chris Nyland is sitting in front of me, and behind me is Darren Turcotte, and across the aisle is John Van Beesbroek. So I take Chris Nyland's shoe, I hand it back to
He's falling asleep now.
he's sleeping. He's
He's
out
sleeping.
cold.
Okay.
I take it, I hand it back to Darren Turcotte. He gives it to Van Beesbroek. They put it up on top of the luggage department, and we're flying. So I get up to go to the bathroom. I take the shoe. I go back to the bathroom. I dump it down the garbage. And I go back, sit down. Chris Nyland wakes up. We're landing at Kennedy Airport. And he's going, "Where's my shoe?" I go, "I have no idea." He goes, "Who took it?" I said, "One of these two guys behind me." So he can't find the shoe. The two other guys can't find the shoe. So he walks off the plane, walks down out to the front of the airport at the terminal. He's walking out, takes the other shoe off, throws it in the garbage. Not the end of the story. John Van Beesbroek was driving a Volvo. Nicky goes and gets a fish, gets it, opens the car up, puts it under the back seat, and this is like end of March, and leaves it in there. 2 weeks later, you couldn't sit in the car. It stunk so bad. And he was getting the car for free, Van Beesbroek, so it wasn't good giving it back. So Darren Turcotte, Chris has got a bad shoulder. He hurts himself or bad, and Mark Hardy has a bad knee. They go over to Turcotte's house. Chris jumps out with a knife, goes and punctures a tire in his car. So he comes back to the car, and Mark Hardy goes, what are you, stupid? You can change one tire. He punctured all four of them. So the bad thing about it is I was the guy that got Turk in trouble, Derek Turcotte in trouble, and I was the guy that also handed out the fines if you were late for practice, which Dukes used to give me a check at the beginning of the year and say, let me know when the thing's up. So anyway, Turcotte having all tires flat in his car was late for practice, so I fined him $100 also. And to this day, they still don't know I had nothing to do with that shoe.
Tom, anything on the plane trick?
Well, now you got to remember, we didn't always fly charters back then, too. We flew commercial. So
well, that's what I'm talking about. We were flying commercial. Let me tell you the one story in my first year playing with Donnie Murdoch. Remember Donnie Murdoch? So we're coming back from Atlanta, playing Atlanta. Donnie had a rough night the night before. The next day, he is sleeping. But in Atlanta, there was this great boot store. You can buy great cowboy boots. He bought a $400 pair of suede cowboy boots, sitting there, loved them, falls asleep. We grabbed his cowboy boots with a Sharpie, right? We passed them to everyone on the plane, every passenger on the plane, autographed those cowboy boots, and then we put them back. And Donnie Murdoch woke up to his awesome freaking cowboy boots to see that everyone on the plane, there must have been 200 people, they all autographed his boots. So, lesson learned, don't fall asleep on the plane.
I'm sure he wasn't too happy with that.
I know,
He was not too happy about that.
Going back to Nicky Fotiu, when you go to a golf tournament, we go to charity golf tournaments, we go there to help raise money for whatever it is. Well, they'll give you a pair of golf shoes, right? So Nick, he'll get there early, and he'll go by and he'll put two rights in one box, two lefts in another box, different sizes. So Steve Vickers gets home and gets back to Toronto, goes to put his shoes on. He's got a size 12 and a size 8. and he's a size 10. So he's sitting there going, how can they make a mistake like that? So he called the Rangers up. He goes, this is like about 8-9 years ago. He goes, hey, you guys, I got bad shoes in the box.
Didn't Nicky one time, the Scoro game where they shoot the puck from center ice in the hole?
I was there too.
So we were on the road. We were on the road someplace, and Nicky went. You finished the story.
No,
right?
we were on Long Island. We were at the at the mausoleum out there, whatever it's called. And we don't want to be rude to all Islander fans. But anyway, so we're out in Long Island, and Nicky goes to me, check down the hallway, because that was the only way the guys could come in. So they had the score there. You shoot the puck to that little hole that can barely make it. So Nicky goes, watch down the hallway if anybody's coming. So I see Craig Patrick was the GM. I see him coming down. I go, Craig, you don't want to come down here. He goes, why? I said, can't tell you. Craig turns around, goes back the other way. Nicky cuts the hole in there. Instead of like 3 inches, 4 inches, makes it like 1.5 feet. So, second period intermission. Yeah! You hear this big cheer outside. The guy put the puck through the hole, won the car.
Never heard that story. That's a good story. Hey, Arda, should we take a question? Because I think someone's dying
Who
to
has
ask a
questions out there? Raise your hand if you have any questions for our alumni here. We got Ron Duguay, Ron Greschner, Tom Laidlaw. Anybody got any burning questions, anything they'd like to ask, whether it's about the current Rangers team, whether it's about their careers? Raise your hand. I'll come out there. Someone right there. I'm going to come down.
Question. There
All
it is.
right. Let's do that. Who said go Ottawa? Who said that?
It should be 5 games. They should beat them in 5
need a
games.
mic.
As long as we win 4, we don't care.
So for the new people, for people who have congregated here, thank you very much for coming. As you can see, we got some great Rangers alumni up on the stage. Just to tell you what else is going on here, because we've expanded Rangerstown Square. In there's a lot of cool stuff. You can get your pictures taken by some stalls with the Rangers equipment that have been game worn. There are pictures you can take your picture in 360 around the entire Rangers team. That's over there. A virtual reality experience. Go behind the scenes at Madison Square Garden. Check out what it's like as the Rangers prepare for a game, so you can check that out. Also, there's a GIF dance booth. So fans will show off their best moves in this booth. You'll then receive a shareable GIF video.
Can we do that?
I think we should all do that. I think the 4 of us should go into that booth later and do a nice Ranger dance.
Square dance?
Yeah, of
Square
course.
dance? I love the
obviously.
Yeah.
Right, Dukes?
Could be a little Studio 54.
Hold down.
Yeah. So we also have, I was calling it skee ball earlier. My apologies. It's actually ski puck. How could I make that mistake? It's actually ski puck, so it's like skee ball with a puck and a stick. It's over there. Actually, I think it's right there where I'm pointing right there. There's also some tailgate games. There's cornhole. And as I mentioned, Tom Laidlaw and I are the champions. Cornhole. So if you'd like to challenge us, we retire as champions. I'm sorry, we're done.
You better be warmed up and ready to go.
Yeah, just one
Bring it on.
right there.
Bring it on.
Speaking of her, we got some face painting going on as well. And actually, hang on 1 second. Because you are the only face-painted person I see.
There's one right down there. Small one.
One there.
There's 2 paints.
Is there 2?
There's 2.
Is there 2?
All right.
All right,
Hug it out. Hug it out.
I see, I have in my hand,
All right,
autographed by Kevin Klein and Dan Girardi. There you go. We appreciate passion here at Rangerstown Square. Give them a round of applause. They showed a lot of great passion here this afternoon. And we need that passion to keep going so we can send that love all the way to Ottawa.
We got one more face painter out there, too.
Do we?
And a hair coloring, too.
Oh, we got a cute little boy right there. That's really cool. So I don't know if you guys heard about this, but apparently the mayors of both cities have made a bet on this series. Jim Watson, the mayor of Ottawa, and Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, have made a bet. So the bet is each mayor, whoever the losing mayor is, they will take a picture with the other team's jersey, standard. They will plant a tree, whatever the appropriate tree is. So here it would be a maple tree. There would be the New York City appropriate tree. And also there's a food exchange. So if Ottawa wins, we send them New York bagels. If the Rangers win, they send us egg rolls from their best Chinese restaurant.
Okay. Is that Canada's national food now, or?
That's right. I don't know if egg rolls travel. I'm not sure how long they would. Maybe that's part of the joke. I don't know.
Do you know what Canada's national
Did
sport
you just make
is?
all this stuff? Did you just make all this stuff?
I did not. It's true. It's the truth.
It was great.
You can look it up.
Okay.
It's the truth.
Do you know what Canada's national sport is? Does anybody know?
It's actually lacrosse, is it not?
Lacrosse.
Yeah, it's
right
actually
there.
lacrosse.
You got it.
But I'm pretty
And
sure hockey is
and
the unofficial.
snowball throwing.
I'd say moose racing. Moose racing sounds about right. Yeah. But lacrosse, yeah. All right, by applause, as he's still rolling, who is going to win this second round series? Will it be the Ottawa Senators? Or will it be your New York Rangers? All right. We got a great crowd here, don't we, guys?
No, Chris Kreider's going to have a great series. You watch. Chris Kreider will be the best Ranger this series.
Here's a question for you guys. Obviously, the Rangers and the Senators engaged in a pretty major trade recently. Mika Zibanejad came to us from Ottawa, and Brassard went to Ottawa. What do you think the reaction is going to be like for these two players in their old barns during this playoff series?
Well, when Zibanejad left, there wasn't bitter feelings on either part. It was just, it was obvious it was just a business transaction for both sides. One team wanted to get more of an experienced player, which we're seeing in Brassard. He's having a great playoff series for them. And then Zibanejad, they knew that they were getting a young skilled player that it may take a while before he kind of becomes the player they want him to become, and then now we're seeing in the playoffs. So it's fun to see these two because they're going to clash at a good time where Brassard's playing well and Zibanejad is now just becoming the player that they wanted him to be.
And Brassard will want to play well. I mean, I like him as a player. He's a competitive guy, but coming back against the Rangers, he's going to really want to play well. I know when I got traded, and I wasn't the level of player Brassard was, I got traded to Los Angeles, first time back.
You were better, Tom.
Was I better? Thanks, Ron. More skilled offensively?
Very, very skilled.
When you do get traded, you know, your ego kicks in, and you want to get traded for somebody pretty good. And I remember I thought at the time they said it was a big goal scorer, and Bernie Nichols was a big goal scorer. And I thought, oh, geez, Bernie's pretty good, young guy. You know, that's pretty good. My ego feels pretty good.
So let's expand on that. When you get traded to another team and then you go back to your old team, a lot of familiar faces now on the other side. You're back in the old barn that you called home. Take me through those emotions and what it's like when you're on the ice against those players that you used to play with.
You want me to go first?
You never got traded, Ron.
Yeah, exactly.
See, you can
Easy answer from Ron.
Well, either nobody else wanted Ron, or the Rangers didn't want to get rid of him. One of the two. No, Rangers didn't want to trade you. It is. You do get fired up. It's a special game for you. You can try to deny it all you want, but the first time back, coming back to Madison Square Garden for me, it was a special game. You wanted to play well. There's a little bit, probably some unexpected feelings that you want to show the team that they shouldn't have traded you. You were a good player. So it was surprising for me when I came back, some of the feelings that happened, but it was also great to come back to the Garden. The Garden is such a special place to play.
There was a question earlier, actually. Dukes, let's start with you on this. Madison Square Garden, a lot of players say that is the most magical place to play as a player. What about some other arenas around the league? What sticks out for you? Where was it really fun to play?
Well, if you're Canadian, you got to love playing in Toronto and in Montreal. Edmonton was Edmonton, but I grew up with Toronto and Montreal, so playing there was, because my team that I followed was the Toronto Maple Leafs. So going back there, the old Maple Leaf Garden, that was special to me. Playing Montreal, the history of Montreal with all the Stanley Cups. Going to LA was fun in a different way, because we just went out there to have fun. Where we went to Montreal and Toronto, we went there to experience playing somewhere where you kind of dreamed about playing someday.
Well, Toronto and Montreal were unique in those old buildings, too, where the fans sat right beside you. You're in the bench, and the fans are actually right beside you. Now you don't have that same experience, right? So it was, like Rod said, those two buildings, growing up.
And that was a lot of fun in Philly, when they got to sit right next to you.
Philly was special.
What was the worst arena?
It's because of Philadelphia that the glass, right? The glass on the sideboards, I'm pretty sure it's because of them. They had to elevate the height of it because in warm-up, they'd be sitting over the glass. And guys like myself and Gresh, whom they didn't like us a whole lot, we had to skate in the middle. We do in warm-up, we had to skate in the middle. I couldn't even go near the glass because they're just hanging over there, just yelling at you. They didn't like us, Gresh. What's up with that?
Well, this crowd certainly likes you three. So we have a few minutes left with our alumni here on stage. Who has a question? Raise your hand. I'll come down with the microphone. Does anybody have any burning questions for our alumni? Anything about the team today, about their playing days? Who's got a question? Raise your hand. Anybody got a question they want to ask?
I have one. I have a question.
You have a question.
Well, I have a question for, does anybody know how Tom Laidlaw, when he was playing in college, used to celebrate scoring a goal?
No, please tell us.
Ron, once again, Ron took the wrong medicine today, so don't listen to anything he says, okay? He switched the pills.
So what do you guys, we're going to get started in a few minutes. What is it that you'd like for us to sing and play tonight? Tom,
Are we singing?
Well, yeah, we're all set up back here.
Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
You had a question here. What's your name, sir?
My name's Alex.
Alex, what's your question?
Mr. Duguay, you obviously work with Steve Valiquette. How much of the time do you believe in his logistics stuff when, he's talking about stats and the goalies and everything with you and Al Traurig on the postgame and on the pregame?
Good question. I'm very much like these guys, very old school.
Why are you pointing at me?
Well, you are old school, Gress. But as far as analyzing the game, we're old school, right? We can watch the game and come up and form an opinion, right? You hit the net, there's a good chance you're going to score. If you miss the net, there's zero chance you're going to score. We're kind of old school that way.
If you miss the net, there's zero chance.
Yeah. So, having said that, we're in an age of analytics now, analyzing and breaking down everything. And I think I enjoy watching it and looking at it because sometimes you can see it. And so it just brings another element to the game. I love working with someone who's younger than I am, and we get along, and I know Al loves analytics. So some of the fans do, I'm sure. It just it breaks it down where it's things that you can pay attention to as you're watching a game. Like let's say Kreider goes down the wing and he shoots 30 feet away. Well, there's a certain percentage chance of him scoring versus he takes the puck and he drives to the net. Well, the chance of him scoring increased by 20%. Well, that's kind of always fun to know, right?
23.5%.
Right. So those are kind of things that are interesting. And so we like to talk about it, and I'm assuming everyone likes it.
And that's how granular Steve gets. I mean, he has a company, right? Clearsight Analytics. He crunches these numbers, and he gets very granular. 17.8% chance that he should have shot it on the blocker to get the rebound. Like, he's very granular with the analytics, which is great.
Yeah. Where I appreciate it is because I don't understand the goaltender position. When he can come up with certain analytics on goaltending, when he can break it down, then that's where I'm really interested because that's one place I can tap into.
There was only one stat I liked, was Yogi Berra's. Right?
Okay.
90% of the putts that are short don't go in.
And what happened the other 10?
That was a Yogi Berra.
How about you miss 100% of the shots you don't take?
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky, how about that? Have goalies always been crazy?
Goaltenders?
Yes.
Well, goaltenders was always the guy that couldn't skate. Or he wasn't very athletic, right? Most goaltenders. That was back when we played. And they were a little bit odd. Just think about it. Who wants to stand there and stop a puck going 80, 90, 100 miles an hour and take it off your forehead? All right? So that guy was always a little bit different, in the dressing room. And
I wanted to be a goalie when I was growing up.
You did?
Yeah.
And?
Why, because you couldn't skate?
Well, I couldn't skate that well, but my father said, Ron, you can't be a goalie. I go, why not? He goes, well, we don't have enough money to have half your brain removed.
Ah. So you're saying goaltenders weren't as smart
back then.
All right. Tom, who was the most bizarre goaltender you played with?
Oh, one of the greatest teammates I ever had, but come game time, he was bizarre. Glenn Hanlon. Remember Glenn Hanlon?
Hanlon, yeah.
Glenn Hanlon was maybe I'd say a backup goaltender and a fantastic teammate. He'd fight for his teammates all the time. And he was the funniest guy on a non-game day when he wasn't playing. But on a game day, you couldn't talk to him. He would not come anywhere near anybody. As soon as the game was over, he turned into a normal human being again. But on a game day, he was one strange dude.
We had the pleasure of playing against one guy that was kind of weird. And he's on the island over there, Billy Smith.
Billy, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Chop Billy.
Stick swinging, hacking.
Yeah.
So how about a round of applause for our alumni who gave us graciously some of their time this afternoon.
Are we done?
That's it. We're good.
We want to stay up here more. What are you talking about?
All right, thanks for listening.
Guys, give them a big round of applause. Our Rangers alumni. Gresh, Tom, and Dukes.
Hope you enjoyed that panel discussion with Dukes, the Gresh, Tommy Laidlaw, and I on stage at Rangerstown Square, right beside Madison Square Garden. Feel free to check it out. There's so much to do there, especially if you're a Rangers fan. Even if you're a hockey fan in general, you will definitely enjoy it. So, this podcast drops every single Wednesday at msgnetworks.com and on iTunes and other podcatchers as well. There have been bonus podcasts the last several weeks, and yes, there will be bonus podcasts this week as well. I won't reveal them yet because I want that to be a surprise, but just keep checking this feed and Twitter at Arda Ocal TV. I will be revealing who the next guest will be here on the A-Pod. Fun chats, fun topics, fun people. And you guys are fun. Thank you for listening. So until the next podcast, have a great week, everyone.